Foams are in most beds, and they're going to have the biggest impact on your long-term comfort as a sleeper. Whether they're called soy foam, or plastic foam, or temper foam, or polyurethane, or if it's rubber foam, all natural, organic, Dunlop, Towelite, it doesn't matter. My goal is to make it very clear and give you a reasonable understanding of how long that mattress is going to last. Now, plastic foams are in most beds because it's cheap to produce and you can make it feel lots of different ways. It's going to have up to 20% soy oil and it'll get called soy foam or plant-based foam. It's still 80% petrochemicals and there's nothing wrong with that. When you spray that foam into the mold and you have it expand to fill that big space, the formula that goes in there is going to impact whether it's lightweight and quite hard, think styrofoam, or lightweight and really pillowy soft, or it can be heavy and hard or heavy and very, very soft. And the prime measure of durability on that is going to be how heavy is it. The heavier that foam, the thicker the wall between each of those bubbles, and the more durable it will be, the more resistant to that divoting over time. In most beds, it's going to be a 1.2 to a 2.5 pound density. You sometimes will find something that's an even heavier density foam. If you find that, it will be more durable than what I'm talking about in general, but it's still going to break down over time. With that 1.2 to 2.5 pound density foam, you're going to find that it compresses about 20% every 5 years. So if 5 years down the road you'd never rotated and never flipped your bed, if it was 5 inches of polyurethane, you'd have 1 inch of sag. It's not a bad thing, it's just how that material wears. And you can manage that wear and tear when you're using it in conjunction with a coil system, for example, through rotation and flipping. And through the years, your mattress will actually end up thinner, but it'll stay pretty flat because that coil will distribute the weight across the entire bottom surface of the mattress, and it'll flatten it out where you haven't been using it. And then when you flip it over, you've refreshed that surface and it's going to feel flat and even. That plastic foam can be processed special and made into memory foam. So what they'll do is they'll add some extra chemicals so when they put it into the mold, as it expands, they can blow air through it. Instead of each bubble being separated by a little cell wall, it's linked to the adjacent bubble. So instead of compressing the bubble immediately and having it expand back right away, you're forcing air out of the full depth of the foam and it'll expand back slowly. Tempur-Pedic made that foam very famous with their handprint commercials in the 90s and the early 2000s. And just like your standard polyurethane foam, the durability is going to be measured by how heavy it is. The lighter weight the foam, the faster it will compress. And in most beds, all those layers of foam are all glued together. That bed becomes only as durable as its least durable component. So you want to make sure that all of the layers of foam are a heavy weight, otherwise you're going to end up with that divot that you can't manage. Plastic foams have a reputation for having a smell, which is true. Plastic foams are going to have a new foam smell. As that foam expands to fill the mold, there's no reaction that's perfect, so there's going to be some chemical residue on the outside of that plastic foam. And that's what people smell when they're smelling new foam. That's what off-gassing is. In most cases, it's not a bother to customers. That off-gassing is just going to be there at a very minimal level for about a week, and it'll be gone. And some companies offer certifications that say, oh, we've got this minimal amount of residue, it's CertaPure foam, or they've got some other sort of certification on that plastic that means that it's got some kind of artificial threshold of, oh, we have less chemical residue than this amount. If you're concerned about chemical smells, you can often ask a company to air out the mattress before they deliver it. However, with the memory foams, where each bubble is linked to the adjacent bubble, that off-gassing can be a lot more intense because it's not just the exterior surface area that's off-gassing, it's the interior as well. So it will be stronger smelling and persist longer. If you are sensitive to those chemical smells, I encourage you to skip the memory foam because that off-gassing might be an issue. Plastic foams have a reputation for sleeping hot. As a result, mattress companies have started taking advantage of that by adding things like gel and selling the idea of temperature regulation in a mattress. And it's a trap. Even if you add gel to a mattress, your body's going to warm up that gel and it's actually going to sleep hotter than a standard polyurethane foam would anyway. So when you're concerned about temperature, don't think about your mattress, think about your bedding. Bedding is going to have the biggest impact on your temperature through the course of the night. And if you want to sleep cool, get breathable bedding. When you want to learn about that, click on the bedding link. Rubber foams have been around since the 1920s, and the first company to do it was the Dunlop Tire Company. And the process they developed was called the Dunlop process. What they did is they took sap from a rubber tree and they whipped it with a soap. They basically made meringue, and they put it into this glorified waffle iron and they cooked it. And then once it was cooked, they'd wash it with water to get all the soap residue out, and they dried it in a big oven, and you had these blocks of foam. And these blocks of foam are very resistant to depression. You get about 1/8 of an inch over a 30-year span. Very robust. If it's all tree rubber, it will last a long time. If it's a blend, it will wear much more quickly, and that quickness has to do with what percentage of that foam is synthetic. For you as a consumer, getting the best value will be knowing, is it 100% tree rubber? Is it 20% tree rubber? Is it 80% tree rubber? And the easiest path to getting that information is asking for a certification. Now, not all certifications are created equal. The most common one is the Gold certification, but the Eco Institute certification is quite a bit better. That Gold certification just says the runoff from that forest is not filled with pesticides, and the end product is 95% natural and at maximum 5% synthetic. If you're looking for true value, you want one that's 100% tree rubber, and you'll get a different certification, that Eco Institute certification that shows it's 100% tree rubber at the end. So that's the best way to get value. But there are other processes for making foam rubber outside of the Dunlop process. There's also the tallolay process or the continuous pour process. The tallolay process was developed for using foam rubber in non-rubber producing countries. If you have to import all of your raw materials, you're going to want to get the most mileage out of that foam or that raw material. And so instead of filling the mold all the way up to the brim like you do with the Dunlop process, you whip that soap, but you only fill it in part of the way, and then you close the mold and you apply a vacuum. And then once that foam has expanded to fill the full space, they inject it with CO2 and freeze it in place, and then it's vulcanized after it's frozen into place. What you end up with is something that weighs less but feels harder. And if you knew nothing else about beds, you'd buy them by the pound. That lighter weight foam is going to break down faster, and it's going to end up feeling softer over time where it gets the most use. So tallolay mattresses, people generally keep kind of in the 7-year realm. If you have the Dunlop, people oftentimes will keep it 15 plus, and that durability is going to be driven by the weight still, but that heavier weight is going to mean it's got thicker cell walls, and people will again keep it longer because it stays feeling the same longer. The last, being the continuous pour process, is done on a conveyor belt rather than being done in mattress-sized molds, and it's usually done in thin sheets, kind of used in hybrid mattresses. I call them kitchen sink mattresses, where they've used lots of different things. It's got memory foam, it's got gel, it's got latex, it's a hybrid, but it's just there to check a box. The value I find in continuous pour rubber is that it can be used in the quilt of mattresses, because it's done in those long sheets, so it can be run through a quilting machine for a mattress. And you'll see video links where you can see how a mattress is made, and that quilting process can use a natural material instead of a synthetic, which is oftentimes a plastic foam. So that continuous pour rubber can be 100% natural or 100% synthetic or blends of the two, and it will be durable based on its weight, which it's usually pretty lightweight. So it's usually, again, going to be that quilting material. But if it is a heavier weight, it would be very robust and quite durable. And if it's 100% natural, again, very robust, very durable. And it can be done up to 6 inches tall. And that is what you need to know about rubber foams.